Welcome to the Mortgage Warrior podcast featuring Steve Dostal. Host Darryl Smart chats with the Mortgage Warrior about his no BS approach to financing that will be sprinkled in with conversations with other people in the business and around the community. So without further ado, here he is, the Mortgage Warrior, Steve Dostal.
What is up, everybody? Darryl Smart with the Mortgage Warrior, and welcome back to the Mortgage Warrior podcast. We took the week off. Someone had holidays.
Yes,
last week
down in Turkey Point. That's my holiday destination. So can't really complain when it's a Thursday and it's a long weekend because the Friday is the Monday. Blah blah blah. Yeah, it was a great weekend down there in cottage country. Not as busy as it normally has been.
Oh, it was actually kind of nice.
Yes.
I was there last weekend. It was actually kind of nice.
Yeah,
Did you go boating?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Anything else? You go fishing?
We went.
Bass season?
We didn't. Well, we went fishing the weekend before on the Saturday, and we got actually skunked. It was
really
horrible. Yeah, like there was so many boats out there, so I think maybe, we didn't get out till almost like 9 o'clock in the morning. I could thank my brother for that. But again, I won't because I was glad he was able to come up with us and my nephews. So. Yeah.
Were you trying to perch, or were you doing bass?
I prefer perch over bass. I mean,
yeah.
Bass are fun to catch. I don't really keep them.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, if we catch some nice perch, I don't catch the small ones. I mean, like you throw those back.
Throw them back, yeah.
Not a big deal, right? So.
When I was paddleboarding the other weekend, the smallies underneath me were about this big, and all the boats were out there, and I'm like, why are you guys out there? Because it was awesome.
Well, sometimes you can't take your boat where you can paddle, right? So
Yeah.
because the problem is the closer you get into the shoal and closer to the weeds and stuff like that and those big tall grass, then that's when you're asking for trouble for your prop and your transom.
So you relaxed?
We relaxed. Yeah, I think a great segue into what we're going to talk about here is that I noticed this year the rental market down there hasn't been as busy as it has been in previous years. I mean, everybody was buying up down there. Everybody was selling and getting great money. Generational cottages that are for sale sold really quick, but now there's a lot that are for sale down there and a lot of price reduction. So,
well, I was just going to ask you about that. Well, that's how I was going to introduce the topic, because we were talking about holidays, and it's July now. It's hot. People want to kind of go away to that oasis, and a second property or a cottage is a perfect way to do that. And the one thing I did notice when we were driving around, there were a lot of houses for sale all of a sudden, because probably about 6 months ago there weren't a lot out there.
No. I mean, the biggest thing about having a secondary home, because that's what they would call it, in the mortgage industry, like for your bank or a trust company, credit union, you have to get a lot of disposable income to be able to afford a cottage, because that's just basically, you're an hour and a half away. Some people are further away. You're going to have to, take care of all the maintenance. You're going to have to take care, of the insurance and the upkeep basically of that property.
Yeah.
Those are all just standard things of owning like a secondary property or a cottage. Mm-hmm. But the problem is now, because of inflation, gas prices are up, interest rates are up. They're going to go up again next week. That's causing a lot of people not to be able to spend that kind of money and have that disposable income to buy a cottage or even own one. So now you're seeing more and more that are selling. People that have missed the boat on trying to sell their generational cottage, now there's a lot of price reductions. So it's going to be a very interesting time in the next month or two to see what happens to that market. Not only in Turkey Point, but Long Point, Port Dover, all the Muskokas, right? Like there's so many people that have cottages that may not be able to utilize them the way they have. And then the problem above and beyond that is the people who have bought them strictly for an income property, right? So it's becoming a lot tougher out there, because a lot of people I know, I've done quite a few mortgages in Turkey Point, and when you walk around or you drive around, they're not being rented. They're empty.
Well, why is that? Because, and again, that's the one thing that you noticed. I noticed the houses for sale, or the cottages for sale. You noticed the lack of rentals. Why is that?
Again, inflation is causing a lot of panic for a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, again, Canadians don't ever default on their mortgage. Like, Canadians are really strong in making sure that at the last resort, you make sure that mortgage is paid.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people that come to my office, don't really have life insurance. They don't really have any kind of investments.
Yeah.
And again, when we talked about people having to save for a down payment or saving money to pay off their debt, well, when you're living a lifestyle of just being a normal, everyday tax-paying Canadian,
Yeah.
it's becoming a lot harder for people to make those ends meet because everything is more expensive.
Yeah. Well, and even the one thing that we noticed, even last weekend, we were trying to look for a rental somewhere just because it was the long weekend, was the price of rentals were sky high. Like for a long weekend in Sherkston, it was like $1,500, which is insane.
Absolutely.
You could do that. You could do that in a week, where you used to be able to do that in a week.
But that's the problem, is because the market, aggressively went up, it kept going up, and now it's falling. People paid a higher price for certain properties to be able to get into it, and then now they were thinking they're going to reap the benefits of having all this rental income coming in. But now, because of the way that the market has gone, interest rates are going up, inflation, the war in Ukraine, right? Like it's causing a lot of people not to be able to to spend that kind of money anymore.
Yeah, well, and that totally makes sense. So for those people that are able to afford a second place, what are some of the things that they look for? Because again, you've got a place down there. What were some of the things, or how long have you been in Turkey Point?
This is our 6th year.
6 years. So
6 years.
About 6 years ago, what were you looking for?
6 years ago, we were in a trailer park right down in the Inner Bay in Turkey, called Fin and Feather Marina. It was in St. Williams, which is really down the road.
It's an awesome place.
Really nice place, but then after a while, when your neighbor's literally this close to you, you really don't want to, be there anymore. I mean, it's becoming a lot more money even to be in a trailer park, right? So, we paid $25,000 for the trailer, which was fine, but then you're paying $3,000 a year only from May until October.
Until they kick you out.
Until they kick you out, and then what are you doing now? Like, at least with the cottage, you can use it year round. Like, I turned our cottage year round anyways, but we bought at a time that was significantly less. I mean, we paid in the 200,000s for our cottage. Like, to find something like that now is not going to happen.
It's pretty unheard of.
Right? And even if rates raise and prices drop, I don't foresee them dropping to the level where they were 6 years ago. But again, I'm not a mind reader, and I don't like to predict things because I in this industry, predicting interest rates, when they're going to rise, when they're going to fall, it's been tough. But if you can have that exposable income, right? If you got advisors like Alfred Family Financial, like is going to be on the next podcast, right? You could save up your tax-free savings account with Mike Alfred at Alfred Family Financial. You can have investments with him, right? Or the other thing is you can use your RSPs to buy a house, right? So if you have RSP money, you can withdraw that, use that for your down payment, right? And on cottages, in certain areas, you can put 10% down and use CMHC. So that's a bonus if you have good credit, good income. The government-funded CMHC program will help you get it with significantly less down. You get a better rate because it's insured. Obviously you've got a debt service with it, which means your ratios have to be in perfect condition, meaning 39% of your total income can't go towards more than your property taxes, your heat, and your principal and interest payment. And 44% is your total debt service ratio. You can't be higher than that. But we have alternative lenders that can go to 50 and 50. So at the end of the day, we have solutions if you are in the market for a cottage. Do I recommend that you buy now? No, I don't recommend. I think you wait when they raise rates again and then see the panic on people when they're coming up for renewal, right? Because that's the biggest thing that is going to be the biggest difference for anybody that has a cottage or even a home, is that if they were in the 2% range and all of a sudden now, right, if they raise rates again, it'd be triple what you're paying almost because it's going to go to 6%. So do you think people that were paying 2% now, right, have, disposable income to buy something when it was that rate, they're going to see a massive, decrease in their cash flow when they have to come up for renewal? Because we're seeing that right now. There's so many people calling for renewals, and I'm telling them the rate, and they're almost, falling out of their chair on the phone with me.
So for those people that are able to afford it, what kind of advice would you give them? Because you knocked off pretty much every question all in one fell swoop. So what kind of advice would you give some people that are really aggressively looking right now?
Whether it's a cottage or whether it's another primary residence or a rental, I mean, the best thing for you to do is call us, fill out the online application. We'll follow up with you, and we can basically map out like a game plan of exactly what you qualify for and see if you can afford it. That's the most important part is you can afford it, not only today but in the future, because I'm already seeing lots of people down there, and even here, are having a hard time trying to sell their properties. And a lot of people have already bought the new property they want to buy, but haven't been able to sell their original property that they're staying in. So there's some trouble happening going to be out there for a lot of people soon.
So a lot of pitfalls then, you're saying?
A lot of pitfalls.
So in the meantime, you've answered pretty much every question, which is good. And I guess, how's the knee? Will you be able to paddleboard? That's a big question, because you know what?
I don't go on those things. They just I'll sit on them, but I'm not a stand-up paddleboard guy, because I think the weight limit on those things are usually 350 pounds, and now that I'm under 350, which is nice, blah blah blah. I just don't bother with those things.
That's all right. Next time I'm in Turkey Point, I'm bringing the inflatable for it.
Absolutely.
And thank you for doing this. And thank you for watching. Episode 5 is in the books, because this guy knows his stuff, and he just knows how to answer questions without the question. It's not a crystal ball. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Today's episode of the Mortgage Warrior Podcast is brought to you by AlfredFamilyFinancial.ca.